Alright, here's my in real time eyedroppering of a BENU, because if you're anything like me, you've seen that BENUs can be eyedroppered, but you haven't been able to find any real instructions for it, and that can be a little bit intimidating. So I did have mine set up with a converter, and I was putting the same ink in it, so I didn't bother to clean the nib and feed section. I will say that was my first bad decision when I thought about just emptying the ink that was in the converter straight into the pen. Bad idea. This is where we start to make smart decisions. We grab the silicone grease, we grab a Q-tip. I would say that I was too gentle on the first application of silicone grease. Also, you'll notice my mistake, because I didn't. The threads that the nib threads into are on the inside, not the outside. The outside ones are for the cap. So I've tried to get all the silicone grease out. I will say my cap seals really, really well now because I did not get all the silicone grease out of those threads, but it's fine. The pen is still surviving. We are liberally silicone greasing the inside of that pen because at this point I was still stressed about doing this without an O-ring. That seemed like a lot, but I'd been assured that I did not need an O-ring to do this. And so we were just going in with the silicone grease. I have eyedroppered a pen before, but for whatever reason, eyedroppering the BENU just seemed intimidating purely because I didn't have instructions. I also silicone greased the threads on the nib and feed section. It seemed like a smart decision, and I will say that it probably did help, just because there were a couple sections that I clearly didn't get silicone grease in and then had to go back and fix. So now we're trying to get the ink out of the cartridge or the converter. This was not the way to do it. I got too much ink in the threads and then had to re-silicone grease those sections. So if I was doing it again, I would probably put the ink in the bottom first and then silicone grease it all, which would make everything a bit more complicated, but I think I would be less concerned about getting ink in the threads. So we were just inking with the same color. It removed a lot of the fear because we're just using the same color that was already in the pen. And I knew that I liked this color. I would not eyedropper a pen this much with this much ink if I didn't know that I liked the color. It's a very big commitment to eyedropper a BENU fully. So we filled it with ink. I'm using a empty pill bottle to hold my BENU, which worked fairly well. I will say that once it got this full, you needed a hand to hold it, but up until this point, using the pill bottle worked fairly well. And then we went back in with more silicone grease because I had wiped away a bunch when I cleaned up the ink spill. And I wanted to make sure that this pen did not leak. I actually did this about a month ago, and I've sort of held this video until I knew if the pen had leaked or not. The only place that I've had any issue with leaking is actually up in the nib and feed section where there was no silicone grease, sort of right at the very top. Every once in a while there'll be a drop of ink up there, but I haven't had any real leakage issues, so I've been very happy with this pen eyedroppered. I like it far more eyedroppered. I think it's just a prettier pen. I don't know that I'll be eyedroppering all my BENUs in the future. Currently I still only have this one, but it's definitely something to consider. And I was also very happy with how it wrote straight away. It had great flow. So all in all, it was a great experience for something that had really been stressing me out because there didn't seem to be instructions, just people saying it was possible to eyedropper. I will say, be prepared to get messy. Give yourself plenty of time, especially if it's your first time eyedroppering a pen. I didn't use an O-ring in this pen because I didn't want to wait for my O-rings to arrive, but if you're afraid, use an O-ring. It would probably be safer than this setup that I currently have.